Why are Labour so strongly in favour of Remain, and has Labour always been pro-EU?
Well, Labour was divided, of course, when we entered the European Union. We wouldn't have been able to enter it if there hadn't been a substantial desertion of the Labour position by, I suppose, the Blairites of that time. 80 or so of them effectively crossed the floor and took us into the European Union. And in 1975, in my first referendum campaign, I was with Mr. Benn and Mr. Foote and others arguing that we should withdraw. Labour was quite finely divided, actually, at that time. Then, as a result of the demoralisation of the Thatcher era that I referred to a moment or two ago and the glimpse of Jacques Delors, Labour began to change. And then, and here's something that's not that comfortable to talk about, there began to be sections of the Labour movement with a vested interest in the European Union, a vested personal interest. People who were not really legends in the street here were treated like legends when they took the Eurostar across to Brussels. It was the equivalent of the British Rail breakfast in first class for them. And when they got to Europe, they were moved around as if they were particularly ornamental, but that's all that they were, ornaments. They didn't represent much in their home country here, and they were just window dressing for the European Union. And there is a class of people in the movement. Well, I'm on the Eurostar a lot because half of my family live in Amsterdam, and I'm on that train, and I'm never on that train without seeing a trade union leader or a TUC official on the train with me. And that has, I don't like to use this word, but it has a corrupting influence. And of course, there are people who have given up hope of transforming our own country and therefore look to another group of countries to try and come to our rescue. But they're fooling themselves, and I hope they're not fooling their members. As for Jeremy Corbyn, I marched with him for 40 years. I literally sat next to him for almost 30 years in Parliament, and I can tell you without a hint of ambivalence, Jeremy Corbyn, if he was not leader of the Labour Party, would be campaigning with us to Lexit, to Brexit, to leave the European Union. He is like a hostage, and he mouths the words of the hostage takers with all the sincerity of the Copenhagen syndrome of kidnap victims. He made some mistakes in the course of the 9 months or so that he's been the leader of the Labour Party, but the biggest of those was to give the foreign affairs portfolio to Hilary Benn, who made it a condition that Jeremy throw his whole strength into fighting for Remain. Although I must say, there's more than a hint of contradiction about the Labour right, and the media for that matter, who are forever telling us that Jeremy Corbyn represents almost nothing at all, but at the same time, he really better put his back into this EU campaign, because without him, it might be lost.